The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom. And once again, we're joined by Chris Taylor. Charles is off gallivanting somewhere or other. And as much as I love Charles...
No, it's lovely to be here. And I was sort of half tempted to try and pretend to be Charles.
Yeah.
But no one can do that voice.
No one can do that voice. And, I mean, you could come up with outlandish theories expressed with total confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And then change your mind midway through them. You
have
feel
an incredibly
free to
confident US election prediction, that you'll deny he ever made.
He's already called the next election for Dutton.
Oh, has he?
And then he uncalled it when Dutton announced the nuclear power plant. Right. Charles has to get the credit for on Channel 10. I don't know how Channel 10 hired Charles for the last election in 2016, but they did. And he called Trump before anyone else in the country.
Did he?
Yeah. I mean,
He's the Nate Silver of Australia.
Well, he said that Nate Silver had data rather than gut feeling and overconfidence.
Right.
Yeah, so that's that.
Speaking of Dutton, I've just caught up over the weekend with all the photographs from the Midwinter Ball?
Midwinter Ball, yes.
Yeah, and I've got to say, a lot of our pollies scrub up very well.
Don't they?
There are some ones I genuinely go, who's that? Oh my God, they look so much better than they do when they're on the House of Parliament. And I'm sure, I don't mean that in a judgmental, just saying they scrub up very nicely.
I
with
actually
one
think
exception.
they should have shouldn't they wear tails on the floor of Parliament? We already think they're out of touch in a Canberra bubble. I think if they wore white tie or tails or whatever it is to the floor of Parliament,
because they're all incredibly sexy and hot. You don't realise that because of, I don't know if it's the light in the chamber or just what they wear.
Or Photoshop.
Yeah, but no, it turns out we've got a glamorous set of politicians with one exception. Going through the photos, it'll come as no surprise, perhaps, Tommy. I was going, wow, yeah, they look great, they look great, they look great, they look great. Oh my God, he looks as bad as he always does, Peter Dutton. He was the one person that still, there's just some pigs you can't put lipstick on.
I haven't seen the photos. I'm going to just choose 3 words. Ill-fitting tux.
See, that's the thing. I think the tux fit quite well. It's just, he doesning have presence. He doesn't sort of wear clothes with confidence. He's got the glasses.
He does have the glasses. That's been a recent
Are we buying the glasses or do we feel that's
adding intelligence to his
and
demeanour?
Softening the sort of the bald head.
Everybody go and search for the photos of Dutton at the Midwinter Ball.
They're not bad.
Let
me just say they're not bad. I was just so impressed with everyone else.
Just by contrast. Go look at the photos while we do this. Yeah, and I mean, look, I guess this is the thing, Chris. If we do elect Peter Dutton at the next election, which is far more likely than it seemed earlier in his tenure, you'll have to, pour one out, give respect to the lack of superficiality of Australian voters, because generally speaking, the balder candidate, and I say this as a very bald person, I've noticed this, people have done studies on this, the balder person generally loses.
Has there ever been a bald Prime Minister?
I can't think of one in Australia.
Not in our recent history.
No, certainly not. I mean, they're probably back before the 24-hour news media. But no,
maybe.
On behalf of the bald community, it would be a moment of progress were he to be elected. I mean,
so you've got me thinking, has there ever been a bald president or a bald UK?
There have been bald presidents, but they were before the 24-hour news media.
Before the age of mass media
Absolutely.
and photography.
And this is why Donald Trump goes to such lengths to
work on whatever
that thing is on his
right.
head. Yeah. So I think if Dutton does win, it will be, admittedly, yet another white man, but one with less hair.
Yes. No,
he's a minority
that's a win
in
for
that
minorities. Good Dutton's sort of, I feel bad, dwelling on this facet of Dutton, given there's so many more things you could critique about him. But he's not sort of bald in the George Costanza way. He's like alopecia.
He's alopecia. No, I think he actually has got alopecia.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, so we've just done the Chris Rock.
Yes.
And sorry, Tanya, but no. Yes, Chris Rock did the G.I. Jane joke.
If I was Will Smith, I'd punch you at this
Why
point.
has no one punched us yet?
But, this is Tanya Plibersek said that he looked like Voldemort, which is a joke that someone in the Chaser at some point have mentioned.
But she got absolutely caned for that.
He jumped on, with Karl Stefanovic and said, look, I've had alopecia. I don't, think that's... And she had to apologise.
Oh, so we're going to have to apologise now.
And I think...
the last 5 minutes I've just been appallingly
you weren't talking about the lack of hair.
No.
You're talking about the sort of general look. But also, I just want to know, maybe J.K. Rowling has done a disservice to Voldemort. We don't at all know that he wasn't an alopecia sufferer who would ordinarily have had a lovely head of hair, but for a very unfortunate condition. That can't be helps. Then again, she doesn't mind picking on people who've got, who are in the minority these days, I suppose, JK.
It'd be genuinely interesting to know if there is studies about, voter intention in relation to something as basic as whether a candidate has hair or not. Because, when I see bald people, it doesn't even register. Like it's, I just think half of men are bald or balding or something. It's just not an unusual, unique characteristic.
But no, look, there are a lot of factors. There are a lot of studies that say, I certainly remember reading them back in Time magazine had an article back in 2007 saying that people don't elect bald people. It's a known thing that they don't do bald.
We don't elect bald women, I've noticed.
Yeah, that's true.
It says, wouldn't it be interesting if it all came out that, Thatcher, Gillard, Theresa May, they all had to wear wigs because they read the data about the electability of bald women.
1957 was the last time Americans elected a bald president. Dwight Eisenhower over Adlai Stevenson.
Bald
and
Dwighty.
They were both bald, though, in that one. So there was no choice.
Oh, they didn't have an option. Was it a low turnout?
So that's right. So,
Two people voted.
John F. Kennedy, one of the reasons why he
had a good head of hair.
Yeah. Look at Bill Clinton, amazing head of hair.
I was reading about the Kennedys this week. The new book's come out that I saw reviewed. I think it was in The Guardian. You would be surprised to hear I read The Guardian, Dommy.
I'm surprised it wasn't The Atlantic.
They've done a deep dive into the history of Camelot and the Kennedy dynasty's appalling treatment of women and asking the very legitimate question, why hasn't there been a reckoning? Like, are they so untouchable? Are they so powerful? Because even... the one that's currently running is the third option.
He's had a whole bunch of allegations.
A scandal this week.
Yeah. He's been accused of terrible things back in his youth.
And apparently he's accused in this book of seriously gaslighting his wife, his ex-wife, and making her feel that she was mad when he was actually just all the time having affairs. And he's, the word gaslight was almost invented for him. But then, going back to Chappaquiddick, Kennedy.
RFK Jr. hasn't done anything quite as bad as Chappaquiddick.
No, Chappaquiddick. I'd forgotten how horrendous it is. And again, the book makes the point that the Kennedys have done such a good job to rewrite history, to sort of say, oh, it's a tragedy, there's nothing he could have done.
And JFK...
Apparently she was under the water in the car after the car accident with Kennedy at the wheel.
This is former Senator Ted Kennedy, one of the great, most beloved figures in the Democratic Party.
The Lion of the Senate.
The Lion of the Senate, pro-healthcare, all this sort of stuff.
He had a car accident where the car drove into the river, very much like Kendall Roy in Succession.
Which was directly, I think, a reference to it.
It must have been. And I didn't pick that up at the time, but rereading about Chappaquiddick, it's clearly a reference to it. He's got a young woman in the car who he chose to leave in the car while he made his escape. The autopsy is just sobering reading. The autopsy said she didn't die from drowning. She died from suffocation. She was alive for an hour in the car where all the windows were done up.
Shit.
So she eventually just ran out of air. She didn't drown. And he would have had an hour to raise the alarm.
Yeah,
but
even if he didn't rescue her himself.
He just snuck off.
He was thinking about being a president. He was thinking of his country.
He was.
Chris, he's thinking of...
Anyway, I don't know how we got on
to that. RFK Jr., though, he also came out in the past week. I don't know whether you saw... He's had quite a fascinating campaign, this man, who may yet cost Biden the presidency.
Well, apparently he's polling okay. And if he's going to attract votes from anyone, it probably is Biden, isn't it?
What? Unless you like Maddies. Because he's an anti-vaxxer.
He's got that. He's going to get the anti-vaxxers away from Trump. But with his Democrat blood from his family, he's going to pull some Biden votes.
This is not a common thing for candidates to come out. But he's clarified that in the photo that's been unearthed, I don't know whether you've seen it, of him grinning next to a barbecued dead dog. He's denied eating the barbecued dead dog. But people think he must have.
There's a real theme when I come onto this podcast, because last time we sat down, we were talking about David Cameron being very close to a dead pig.
Yeah.
Too close, in fact, with some of his parts. And so what's the allegation with Kennedy that he...
It's very complicated. So there's
first of all,
a photo.
Why was there a barbecued dog? Let's just walk through this step by step.
So
Who barbecued a dog?
He's now saying it was a goat, not a dog. This is what he's saying.
But everyone else says it's a dog?
People are saying it's a dog. It's certainly a barbecued corpse of some point. He looks very, very happy next to it.
He's in
Patagonia.
It's got a collar on that says Lassie. How many goats do you know?
And it's in Patagonia. It was all very complicated.
He's saying it's what everyone sort of country, isn't it?
But the thing is, this is the same year apparently where he got the brainworm. So the theory is that he ate the dog, got the brainworm, and people have linked the brain worm that ate part of his brain, and that's not in dispute, to being an anti-vaxxer. So potentially the worm ate the smart part of his brain. I'm not sure. He has said in clarifying this week, he was on with Cuomo on News Nation, one of the Cuomo got in trouble, has got a job on a fringe network, that he'll eat anything. That's what he says. He'll eat anything. So
he did. He also had this extraordinary quote when all these sexual harassment allegations were thrown at him. I think they were stronger than just harassment. I think in some cases there was assault allegations.
Yes.
He goes, well, I'm not a church boy. Like, there was no sort of denial. It was just, boys will be boys. I wasn't a church boy.
So USA Today's quote, their headline is, RFK does not deny sexual assault allegations, rejects reports he once ate dog meat. So it's basically like, you got me on the first one, but it wasn't a dog, it was a goat. He said it was part of his rambunctious youth, is what he said.
I love that. So he's of the two ones that he wants to deny, he's happy to own up to the sexual assault and misdemeanors, but he draws the line at pleading guilty to ever eating a barbecue dog.
Yeah, he says, this is a great quote, just envisage this one. As you say, I've said from the beginning, I'm not a church boy, but he went on to say, I have so many skeletons in my closet that if they could all vote, I could run for king of the world. Not an elected position, I don't think.
He's taken having skeletons in the closet and, to his credit, turned that into a positive, as if that makes me popular.
I mean, I don't think the person who made the sexual assault allegations is likely to vote for him, if I'm honest.
Isn't it? I mean, you despair because it's sort of when you look at the media and the way they cover elections these days, particularly in America, but everywhere, you've got still this ongoing obsession about Biden's performance in the debate. That's still it's topping most,
and it's not going away.
Punditry. No, it's not going away. Will Joe stay in the race? Will he go out?
We are recording this a little earlier, so by the time that you hear this, he may have dropped out.
That's true.
I've got an audio clip to play you in a second, which helps make the case, frankly, for him leaving.
Yeah. But as we record this, he's still in.
Yeah.
But the point I was sort of making, though, is there's a fixation on, not an unreasonable fixation, but an absolute disproportionate fixation on debate performance.
Yeah.
Then when they look at the other candidate in Kennedy, they're looking at whether he ate a dog or not.
Yeah.
And
a
then
fair question.
Trump, meanwhile, is, bending the Supreme Court to give himself lifelong immunity. He did a debate performance too, full of lie after lie after lie.
Yeah.
No one's critiquing the fitness of a liar to be president. They're only critiquing the fitness of an old guy to be president. The media in America is mostly liberal, and yet it's amazing how little they hold him to account. The only time I've ever seen them hold him to account is that sort of when he was denying the election results on January 6th, that sort of period where Jake Tapper would ask the director of CNN to pull away from the press conferences. We will not put falsehoods to air. You would not put Trump to air any day of the week. Why did they only do it
on
that
the
day?
network on the debate day, which was on CNN, moderated by Jake Tapper.
And not fact-checked live.
Now, Chris,
so I did sound like Charles.
It was the stuttering. Chris, I have a fact check for you, actually now, after this.
None of the medical advice contained in the Chaser Report should legally be considered medical advice. The Chaser Report.
You said that Joe Biden was an old guy.
He's pretty old.
That may not be true.
Oh.
Due to something that Joe Biden said in an interview last week. And again, this is when he was still running. He was on radio. He's been going out trying to do damage control and trying to say that he's still fit for office. He's claimed that he had jet lag in the debate. He was very tired coming back from NATO or whatever it was, or the G7. He's claimed all kinds of things. He apparently the following day gave quite a good speech where he was certainly relatively with it. This is Joe Biden trying to clarify that he's actually still got it.
By the way, I'm proud to be, as I said, the first vice president, first black woman, served with a black president. I'm proud of the first black woman in the Supreme Court. There's just so much that we can do because together there's nothing. Look, this is the United States of America.
There you go.
It's me.
He's a black woman.
What did he? Was that a misspeak, or did he actually say I was the first black woman?
First black woman.
Is there something he hasn't told us?
I think it could be a plus. It could be a plus.
He's gone from being not left-wing enough to being so left-wing he's transitions, not just his gender, but his race.
And people have said that Michelle Obama is the one woman who could come out and win this.
I don't think she's black or female enough compared to Joe.
Compared to Joe. And she's ruled out Steve Bannon, who's I think just about to begin his prison sentence. He said the one person I reckon could beat Trump if she came out was Michelle Obama, who has no interest in running, which again is very relatable and impressive.
Yes.
But yeah, that's Joe's brain again, spewing forth random phrases. I will give him credit though for at the end of the quote they're saying that he's in the United States of America because honestly
the
you
name
could
of
have
the country
believed
right.
anything.
You remember, like back in the day, must have been early Chaser newspaper, Chaser TV shows. We got a lot of mileage out of George W. Bush's gaffes.
As did everybody. Yeah,
you know that "ask me once, shame on you." Fool
There
me.
were daily
You
Bushisms.
can't-
There was-
all of that.
people released books of them.
Lots of Bushisms. I mean, at least he was in the ballpark of lucidity. but that quote by Biden, "I'm a black woman." I mean, this is God.
It's not the best.
I also heard him say, I think you mentioned it, that, they keep coming up with new excuses for his debate performance. The first one was he had a cold, then that he was jet lagged and hadn't slept. He goes, I think it was one point in the debate I almost fell asleep.
That's right.
And he said that as if,
As it was an
that makes it
excuse.
all fine, man. Like,
You're on national television fighting to win the presidency, and it was grandpa nap time.
I mean, it would have been fine if he spun it as, Trump was so long-winded
Yeah.
tedious and repetitive that he made me fall asleep. It wasn't. It was just, no, I was so tired I almost fell asleep. And I go, not a good election pitch.
Next time there's a crisis and you got to go down to the Situation Room, you're potentially having a little nap. And no, look, it's not good. How you choose between not even Joe Biden, but a dramatically reduced version of Joe Biden. Imagine this in 3 or 4 years versus Donald Trump, whose relationship with the truth is he treats the truth like a wife, really.
This is the greatest democracy in the world, where the two people running for the top job are a convicted felon and basically a dementia patient or someone seriously incapacitated.
Well, I must say, this again, people might look more favourably at Peter Dutton, who is
he
far
running
more
for the
qualified
US election?
whoever we don't elect, we could potentially give them.
I was very mean to Peter Dutton at the start of this podcast. I will go on the record and say, if Peter Dutton was to throw his hat in the ring, and I advise him to wear a hat, if he was to throw a hat in the ring for the US presidency, I think he'd be the most attractive
He'd be
candidate.
the most attractive. Yeah, absolutely.
He's got my vote.
And speaking of uniforms and outfits, and he was talking about, to go back to the Australian election, I think the thing Peter Dutton needs to do, if he wants to beat Albo, which he may do anyway, he doesn't look comfortable in a tux, as you say. It's not his look.
No.
Get back in the Queensland cop
outfit.
People are going to vote for that. In 2024, that is the person. A literal cop on the beat, Chris. I think that could work very, very well.
Dom, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks for being here. Our gear is from Rode. We're part of the Iconoclast Network. We'll catch you next time.